Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Monkey D. Luffy, the Raid on Onigashima version, which I'm hoping they make other versions. So we're going to do a question of the day right away. Which version of Luffy is your favorite? I'm just attached to the pre-time skip, so I like the blue jeans and not the scar, but the scar is cool. So, you know, it's kind of like, I like them both, but I would like to have the blue pre-time skip version. Let me know which one you guys want, though I'm sure they're going to make more. I'm guessing they are anyway. And then I want to do another question of the day right away because it looks like we're going to be getting all of the shonen characters released from SH Figuarts, which is an awesome thing. Which of the big three is your favorite? You have Dragon Ball, any version, it doesn't matter which one, One Piece, and Naruto. I guess you could include Bleach. Okay, we'll do Bleach. I'll throw Bleach up there, though. I'm just guessing. I haven't checked the numbers. I think Bleach is number 4, though, as far as popularity goes. Which is your favorite? For me, I'm going to have to go One Piece, Dragon Ball, then Bleach, then Naruto, then everything else, and then Naruto. But, okay, let's go ahead and talk about this figure. It's pretty darn cool. There's one really strange thing about it. A couple things that aren't great, but overall, it's a really, really solid release. So make sure you stick around to hear all the nitty-gritty. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Real quick before we get into the review, we will look at my package just because it's a new one. I like the way they've done it. It does have a hint of the way they've been doing the Dragon Ball with the separate panels and things, but it has this nice background that looks like a map for the packaging, and it shows the figure, and I think it's a really nice looking package. It suits One Piece, but it does fit in nicely with Dragon Ball stuff too, and even the Naruto stuff, I suppose, for the most part. Okay, for those of you who collect in package, I have satisfied my responsibilities. Okay, this guy stands roughly, of course you could pose him a little bit different, but we'll just call it 15 centimeters. There's a little bit of hat sticking up above that, but we'll call it 15 centimeters. It's going to be just about 6 inches, roughly. Here he is up against the good old Marvel Legends Darwin. I think that's close enough. If you wanted to scale these together, put these together on a display, you could. Marvel Legends and SH Figuarts are close enough, I think, that you could get by, but most of the bigger SH Figuarts figures tend to scale down, so you might have some issues, but there you go. And I'm sure you guys are wondering how he's going to scale, so here he is up against the kind of go-to standard Goku. He's actually got a little bit of height on him if you look at the top of his head, but they're definitely close enough in scale that it definitely won't be a problem. Of course, there are different art styles completely, but if you wanted to mix the shonen characters, it's more than doable, so that's perfectly good. Real quick, guys, before we get into the review, we have to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Into the AM. They are the wonderful t-shirt people. Again, that's my slogan for them, not theirs. I keep working with them because I keep loving their products, and today, the reason we're talking about them is obviously they have new designs. Here's one of them I wanted to show you guys. It's a really cool one. I like it a whole bunch. The Space Samurai thing, I'm just loving it. Plus the bright red with the black. I love this design. I had to show it to you guys. I like it a whole bunch. But in addition to the new designs, they have this new feature called packs on their website. It's a new way to bundle and save money on the shirts, and you get a really, really good deal. And I've told you guys before, these shirts are worth every penny when you buy them full price. But using the link in the description below, you'll save even more and you can get a bunch of shirts at a really, really good price. They're not telling me to say any of this, these are the best t-shirts, bar none, that I have ever owned, especially graphic tees with the print work on there. It's wonderful. I wear these things all the time. People compliment me on them, compliment them on me, however you want to phrase that. It works either way, all the time. They are wonderful. You should definitely check them out. Again, use the link in the description below. You can check out the packs, save a whole bunch of money, and get some really, really awesome shirts. You can still buy them all the other ways you used to be able to buy them. You can check out their website and see all the different things they have. But again, I recommend the graphic tees, and again, this is a new way for you to save some money. So go check them out. Let me know if you find anything you like. Alrighty, this guy, he is pretty good looking, I have to say, though there's not a lot of paint, which seems to be the go-to thing for Bandai these days. This guy comes in at what? I think it was 35 USD, something like that. I don't remember offhand, but it's right around there. So I think they're doing a thing like they did with Naruto and Dragon Ball, really, where they have a few of the main characters kind of cheap, then the other ones are a little bit more expensive. That seems to be what's happening, but I think that's fair enough. And for 35 bucks, this is one heck of a figure. There's a little bit of paint on it. Let's go ahead and talk about the paint. There seems to be some shading right here on the peeper region, which is kind of strange. I don't see any of that darker brownish color in any noticeable way anywhere else. Oh, it's down the seam of his butt too. That's unfortunate shading. It doesn't look as bad in person as it does on camera. but that is unfortunate shading for his pants. It's not super duper obvious, so I'm not terribly worried about it, but it's not great. The paintwork for the ruffle is clean enough. It's not really a ruffle, I know. And that's good. And then the paintwork on his chest is really nice. The buttons and the scar both look awesome. That's a good thing. The face, perfectly acceptable. I like it. They do tend to soften up the features a little bit more than I think I would do. They do that for Dragon Ball and Naruto also. But it's not as nicely detailed as it could be, perhaps, but given the art style of One Piece, I think you're probably okay with that. Then we have a little bit of paintwork for the hat, which is clean enough. I guess lastly, the foot paint. Actually a character that makes sense wearing sandals, Naruto fans. They did a really clean job painting those straps. So paint-wise, it's pretty good. Could have a little bit more, of course, but it's not bad. Now, as far as the rest of it, I think the finish is nice. The only thing that stands out to me is the pants are a little bit shiny, but everything else is a nice matte or satin finish, and it looks really good. I guess his torso is a little shiny too, a little bit, but you could always argue sweat. So it's not bad, it looks pretty darn good. I think the sculpt is really nice. Very pleased with that. I think they captured the character pretty nicely. I'd have to check. His lower legs are ridiculously long, and I know One Piece has very stylized artwork, so it might be right. I haven't watched One Piece in forever. It might be right that his lower legs are ridiculously long, but otherwise, it looks pretty darn good. So for 35 bucks, this thing gets a 9 out of 10. That's a whole lot of figure for 35 bucks. So I'm very, very pleased with that. Now, as far as the accessories go, this guy's kind of a Gohan situation where other figures are coming with accessories for him. I think they've only shown faceplates though so far, so maybe eventually we'll get some like effect parts for his hands or something. But in this package, you get the neutral face that comes on him in the package. You get one where his teeth are showing, one where his mouth is open and his teeth are showing, then one where he's all cartooned out. So that's pretty good. You get the head that holds the hat, and then you get alternate headpiece that is just hair, so that's pretty good. You have your options there. And for hands, he comes with the 2 fist hands, and you get 2 karate chop kind of hands and then 2 style pose hands. That's it. Not a lot in the package. Again, I think for 35 bucks that's fair enough. I would have been happy to pay 40 and get like a big fist or something that indicates he has some kind of ability from his devil fruit power. So that's kind of unfortunate. Decent enough spread for the price. I'll go 8 out of 10 for accessories. Faces, hands, hair, that's fine. But yeah, could be more. And I think we'll get more down the road in some way or another. Alrighty, now for articulation, I have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is some of the joints are a little bit loose, and I'll point those out as we go, hopefully, but you'll probably see it as we're going. But otherwise, there's some good stuff here. So double ball peg for the head, which as I always tell you is the best thing, and it is. You can just move the head around, especially with a ball peg in the neck. You can just move the head around however you want, whenever you want, without any finickiness, without any hassle. It's just exactly what you need in a joint. Now this joint is not the hat coming off. I did let my daughter play with this. I was watching her, so I knew she wouldn't eat any of the edible parts. Non-edible parts, choking hazard parts. Okay, so she probably pulled on this stuff. But yeah, that right there. The head does pop off a little bit too easily, and that's kind of a problem because the other head doesn't come with the ball peg. So I think that's the result of the interchangeability, because the whole ball peg system comes out of this head and goes into the other head, so they needed it to swap easily. It's not like it's super loose, but I think it could be a little bit tighter. Let me go ahead and put his hair and everything back together. There we go. The hat doesn't stay on super well. The way they've done it, it's not especially connected, but it should be fine. Alright, so the head does pose really well. The shoulders, they did something I really don't like, and that is to not have this shoulder be the actual joint. It's more like a Revoltech figure where the shoulder is a cap over a joint. And in this case, it works okay, but it's so unnecessary. I don't know why they did that. Very strange. There's no butterfly joint in here, as far as I could tell. If there is one, mine does not move. I thought there was, but I couldn't get either side to move. But you have this double ball hinge system, which is just overkill and so unnecessary. I think they did that to avoid a butterfly joint, and we're going to see right now how that works. This is a soft piece, by the way, but it is connected to the body. So these little cuts do help, but they don't help a ton. So let's see. We can raise the arm that far to the side, so that's good. That's better than horizontal. That's really nice. Obviously, you get your full rotation. The rotation is tricky on this because the rotation happens all the way in there, which is reasonable enough, but it's fairly far set into the torso. So you immediately start pushing against that soft plastic, and it should be okay. Also, my rotation is very stiff on this figure. But you do get it, so just be careful with that. It's a little bit strange. It feels like you're stressing the joint a whole lot. Okay, and because of that double ball hinge, as the shoulder is down, you can shift it up, which serves no purpose really. So I don't get why they did that. That's not a butterfly joint. If you rotate it all the way forward, we're gonna try it, and then shift it, it shifts back, and I guess goes across a little bit, but you can see how the joint is not a fun joint to use. It's too high up, it's too far back, this one back here. And so this double joint system, plus you can see how tiny that one inside is. That little tiny joint inside this big shoulder has virtually no usability. And that's the problem we see with all of these, most of the shoulders that work like this. So you get a little bit of a butterfly out of that, but is it worth it? I guess if you're going for a very specific photo, sure. But to me, I think even a less than ideal butterfly joint with a better shoulder probably would have been more effective. And it certainly would have been more pleasant to handle. This is kind of a pain in the butt. You do get your bicep swivel right here. I don't like that they did this right here. You can see the cut. They didn't try to even hide it. You get to see the flat here on that direction and the flat there. It's not a big deal. It's a relatively small piece of plastic, so it doesn't really stand out too much, but I think they could have used the wrinkles to just round that part out just a little bit to not have the ugly cut for the bicep swivel, you know? Double jointed elbow works very nicely, really good range. It's an attractive joint, no problem there. They did go kind of hard on the sculpt for the forearm. You see it's very detailed. There's a lot of curve to it. So using the wrist joint, which works really well, it does look weird in some poses. So you're gonna have to kind of play around with that to make it look right. When you turn the hand like this, since the forearm doesn't rotate, it does look kind of disjointed, but it's not a huge deal. All right, for the upper torso, we have a ball peg. You don't get a ton of range out of it because of the jacket, but he does lean back about that far. Leaning forward is much better, so that's good. He leans forward nicely. Side to side, not a ton on that top joint, but it is there, so that's good. You do get some rotation out of it, but it's pretty oblong, so you're not gonna get a whole lot. Then they did this weird thing where they put in the upside down ab crunch, which is fine because there's a joint down here, so there's not an issue like that. It just doesn't seem to do much. That's as far back as I can get it to go, and as you can tell, it's pretty much still just flat abs. Like he's leaning down here. So if I straighten that out, he's not leaning very far back at all on that ab crunch. So that's a little bit weird. Now if I try to force him forward on that ab crunch, that's as far as he goes forward only. So it's pretty limited. You're still gonna use this joint down here to bring him forward, and this joint up here. Together they work well enough. I'm just not sure that this ab crunch actually adds enough to bother being in there to break up the sculpt and to raise the cost. That's a little bit weird. Now down here we do have the floaty belt, which is actually connected to the crotch of the pants. That's a little bit new for most of the figures they release. This is on a little ball peg, so it gets out of the way. But this joint, this ball peg down here is where you get almost all of your torso range. He leans back very far. He leans forward pretty far. Now when you use all the joints together, you get the rest of that. So it does work out nicely. And then going side to side, you get so much range out of this lower ball peg. It just goes to show what I've been saying all these years. If you're gonna have the ab crunch, you need to have rotation down there also. And all that extra range is so much of a benefit. If Hasbro or any of the other companies that refuse to put a ball peg or even a swivel down here in addition to the ab crunch would just pay attention. Look, it works so well. It works nicely. Okay, so for the hips, they do go back, they do go forward. His butt cheek is sculpted primarily on the pants, so it gets a little gappy in the pose, but you do get the range going back, which is very nice, as opposed to having that cheek right there sculpted onto the crotch piece. You wouldn't be able to bring the leg back, so I do like that you can get basically a full-on forward split, which is nice, especially for a character like Luffy where he needs to be pretty agile. I like that. Going out to the side, standard hinge, basically. And you get basically full-on splits, which is perfectly good to me. I will take that. There is a little bit of shading in here. I'm seeing it now. I think it's just super subtle, and they happen to hit right here with a little bit more shading. But yeah, there's definitely shading in the pants, so I appreciate that. I take back what I said earlier. It looks pretty good. I don't know. I didn't really notice it before. I guess it's just because of the harsh lighting and that this is hit a little bit too heavy. But yeah, I like that. Okay, so you saw the legs. Those work nicely. Thigh swivel, nothing up here at the hip. You get that down here where the flesh plastic connects to. It's actually a ball peg, so you can move the leg around inside. So that's nice, and you get your thigh swivel. That works wonderfully. Now here's the super weird thing about this figure. It's so strange, and a lot of the promo photos, even maybe on the package. Let me see. Yeah, so if you look right here, and there were other photos that I noticed before, that leg is clearly cutting through the shorts. The calf is cutting through the shorts. Or it's really generous photography. But here's the interesting thing. On other Luffy figures, I've seen like extensions and things, slip joints so you can pull the leg down and use that knee. So the knee only goes that far. But if you look at this is a separate piece of plastic back here, and there's a pinhole right here on both sides. But this doesn't move at all. So at some point, it looks to me like they planned for this to be a hinge and then just scrapped it and then just glued it in place. I don't know if it's because the pin was going to be too expensive or they were doing it out of plastic and it was breaking or what, but I've tried everything I can. This piece does not move, and when you look inside, it doesn't look like it can either. But this should have been, plus even if it could, like this is in the up position. So I'm thinking what they did is they scrapped the idea at some point and said, well, that's good enough. But this looks like it should go down and up farther, but it doesn't. It's just stuck in that position on both sides. So I don't know what happened there, but it really does affect the joint. The knee sucks. It's less than 90 degrees on somebody who crouches down and gets into all these crazy poses like a frog and stuff. Like, it's just, whatever happened here is unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. Unless they're going to release a better version that costs more someday that has this. It's really strange how they left it on there, but it's not functional. So that sucks. You do get the single jointed knee, which would be good. It would have plenty of range if the shorts were not in the way. That's unfortunate, but you do get that extra ball peg in there that does help. I'll show you. It works pretty nicely. The ball peg part. Okay, and then for the ankles, it's a standard ball hinge. I think the ball hinge itself could have been just a touch bigger to get better range, but you still get really good range. So that's fine. Perfectly good ankle rocker. Everything's good there. Toe joint is well placed, and it's functional enough, and the sandals are hard, so that's good. So, other than some weirdness in the shoulders, like I said, some looseness. The knee is one of the problems. The head is kind of an issue. It's not perfect. There's a little bit of an issue here and there, but ultimately the articulation does work pretty well. He poses nicely. The only real problem would be that the knee doesn't have as much range as it should. So I'm going to give the articulation an 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely good enough, but definitely could be better, particularly in the shorts. Okay, time for the final verdict on the first release of the One Piece SH Figuarts line, not counting the old ones that came out forever ago. I think this is a wonderful start, and I'm very excited going forward to see what they do. Obviously, if you guys know anything about One Piece, you know there's a plethora of characters and character versions and things, so I'm hoping they just go full ham and just give us everything. I think that would be very, very, very cool. And if anybody can do it, it's this brand. So I'm psyched, and I'm going to give this guy an overall rating of, for the price point, 9 out of 10. It's really good. Holding it back, those few joint issues, that's not great. And then there's no effect part that indicates what he's good at, what he's for. It's just a regular guy as far as we know from the action figure. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, still a really strong release, and if you were thinking about getting it, I think you should keep thinking about it until you get one, because it's definitely worth having in your collection. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.